The boardroom felt colder than usual. A single sentence cut through the room like glass. "You're nothing but a leech, Emily." No one defended her. No one even blinked. Emily stood still, holding the last shred of her composure. Ariana's smile was sharp enough to wound. Evan avoided her eyes, pretending to read his notes. Silence wrapped around Emily like a tightening rope. She realized they no longer saw her as family. Not as an auditor. Not as anything that mattered. But beneath that silence, something shifted. A quiet decision took shape, steady and irreversible. They thought she was powerless. They never wondered what she had been preparing. Emily remembered the shift that happened after her father died. One day she was his right hand, and the next she was a shadow. The company halls felt different without him. Colder, quieter, and somehow narrower, as if they were pushing her out. Evan took the CEO seat before the funeral flowers had wilted. He didn't ask her opinion. He didn't ask her to stay close. He simply filled the space their father left and closed the door behind him. Ariana slipped into power with a smile sharp enough to slice through every boundary. She praised Emily in public and dismissed her in private. She treated Emily like a procedural form, a requirement, a footnote. Emily learned to read the pattern. The fewer meetings she was invited to, the more whispers echoed behind her. The fewer responsibilities they gave her, the more documents she was asked to sign. They wanted her quiet. They wanted her harmless. They wanted her invisible. But Emily was raised by a man who believed silence was a form of data. He taught her to watch carefully, to log everything, to assume that paper never lied, even when people did. So Emily did exactly that. She kept copies of every suspicious invoice that crossed her desk. She archived emails written too late at night. She flagged inconsistencies that magically disappeared in the official reports. She saved contracts that didn't match the transactions. She collected signatures that looked forced or rushed. She noticed how Ariana's approvals multiplied. She noticed how Evan ignored policy more often than he followed it. She noticed how decisions were made in rooms she was no longer invited to. She never confronted anyone. She never argued. She never asked for an explanation. Instead, she built something stronger than outrage. Something colder than anger. A digital vault with layers of encryption no one could guess. She named it the Citadel. Inside it, she placed every inconsistency, every misstep, every falsified trail. She stored financial records with timestamps that contradicted official logs. She saved voice memos, slipped casually between meetings. She kept drafts that revealed intentions before they were rewritten by PR. She built a timeline so detailed it felt like a confession crafted by the company itself. The more they ignored her, the more data they handed her. The more they belittled her, the more clearly she saw the structure collapsing. They thought she was passive. They thought she was obedient. They mistook her silence for submission. But silence is not weakness. Silence is observation. And observation is power when no one realizes you are watching. Emily understood something they never considered. People who underestimate you tend to hand you the evidence you need. Day after day, they did exactly that. Until one morning, she opened the Citadel and knew the truth. She wasn't the weakest person in the company. She was the only one who understood how easily it could fall. Emily discovered the loophole while reviewing the outdated corporate bylaws. The document was a maze of vague rules and forgotten amendments. Half the leadership had never bothered to read it. The other half assumed it didn't matter. But Emily knew bylaws were the skeleton of a company. If you reshaped the skeleton, you reshaped the body that moved around it. She didn't need revenge. She needed structure. A structure that protected the company from reckless hands. And a structure that quietly placed the final authority in her control. She worked on the revisions late at night when no one watched. Her office lights stayed on long after the hallways emptied. The silence helped her think clearly. The numbers guided her decisions like a compass. She rewrote compliance sections with surgical precision. Every line was crafted to sound neutral. Every clause sounded like a necessary update. Nothing screamed danger. Nothing looked suspicious. Nothing hinted that hidden power sat beneath the legal phrasing. Then came Section 18B, the heart of her design. A clause requiring the chief internal auditor to authorize any transaction over 750,000 USD. It was simple. It was clean. It was logical for any responsible governance model. But its implications were immense. Without her signature, big money deals were invalid. Without her approval, expansions stalled. Without her oversight, the company could not legally operate at full scale. And ignoring the clause meant violating federal regulations. Violating it meant SEC intervention. Violating it meant automatic audits, penalties, and possible criminal exposure. She didn't write it as a threat. She wrote it as a safeguard. A safeguard no one expected her to wield. She inserted the clause between two routine updates. She buried it inside language that sounded procedural. She made sure it read like something an intern might skim over. Then she walked the draft to Evan for approval. He glanced at the binder with the distracted confidence of a man who never faced consequences. He signed without reading. He even joked about padding paperwork. Emily smiled politely and said nothing. Later, Ariana signed too. Her signature was sharp and impatient, as if the pen annoyed her. None of them questioned why Emily handled the rewrite. None of them wondered why the internal auditor was revising corporate governance alone. They assumed she was doing busy work. They believed she was harmless. They forgot she understood the system better than they ever would. Once every executive signed, Emily archived the official copy. She filed it into the corporate database with perfect compliance. In that moment, the entire structure shifted in her favor. Power didn't crash into her life. It settled quietly into her hands, wrapped in legal language, shielded by procedure, hidden behind their carelessness. Months passed, and no one mentioned Section 18B again. But Emily did not forget. She carried the clause in her mind like a silent blade, waiting for the moment they pushed her too far. And she knew that moment would eventually come. The meeting ended worse than Emily had imagined. Ariana's words still echoed in her ears. "You're nothing but a leech." Her hands trembled slightly as she collected her laptop. She left the boardroom without a word. No one stopped her. No one even glanced up. She walked through the glass corridors, each step measured. Her mind was calm, focused. She needed to act before emotions took control. Emily settled into a small cafe a few blocks from the headquarters. She ordered black coffee. She opened her laptop. The screen reflected determination. She began drafting a single email. The recipient list was precise. Auditors, investors, compliance officers. She titled it simply, Compliance Anomaly Notice. The message was brief, neutral, factual. It stated that certain high-value transactions had been executed without proper authorization. It referenced Section 18B. It noted that the chief internal auditor had been blocked from signing. It did not accuse anyone personally. It did not speculate on motives. It relied solely on documented evidence. She attached spreadsheets, scanned documents, and email chains. Every detail was verifiable. Every timestamp was intact. She reviewed it twice, then 3 times. Her finger hovered over the send button. She hesitated for a heartbeat. The moment felt heavy. Not because of fear, because of inevitability. She knew the system was built to respond. She knew her action would ripple outward. She pressed send. The email left her inbox and entered multiple secure servers instantly. Within minutes, confirmations arrived. The recipients acknowledged the anomaly. Emily watched the cafe window reflect her calm face. Outside, people passed without knowing the storm she had unleashed. She sipped her coffee slowly. The room felt quiet, almost too quiet. She imagined the boardroom back at Vanguard. Evan and Ariana scanning their inboxes, seeing the alert, reading the evidence, realizing the implications. Emily allowed herself a small smile. She did not gloat. She only observed. The system she had built was now in motion. The dominoes were set, and they would fall. She considered the next steps. But for now, patience was required. She closed her eyes briefly. Breathed in. Breathed out. The storm was coming. But she did not run from it. She did not hide. She was the quiet center, the fulcrum around which the chaos would pivot. Minutes became an hour. Emily packed her laptop, paid the bill, walked out into the late afternoon sun. Her mind was clear, her purpose undeniable. The first domino had been tipped. And from this quiet cafe, she watched the beginning of the collapse unfold. The first alerts hit Emily's phone within 30 minutes. SilverRock Capital froze the $80 million investment. Their compliance team flagged every transaction linked to Vanguard. Emails poured in, each marked urgent. She watched calmly. Outside, the city moved as if nothing had happened. Inside the financial world, chaos erupted. TechCrunch broke the story online. Other news outlets followed in rapid succession. Vanguard's stock ticker began to fall. 43% in minutes. Traders panicked. Algorithms triggered automatic sell orders. The market didn't wait for explanations. Investors called brokers. Lawyers reviewed internal documents. SEC notifications appeared on dashboards. Every phone call, every message added to the storm. Emily stayed seated, sipping her coffee. She observed the patterns she had anticipated. Every data point confirmed her predictions. The Citadel she built was running silently in the background. It had collected everything they thought they hid. Every discrepancy, every signature foregone, every internal breach. The boardroom erupted hours later. Evan and Ariana were frantically scanning emails. Their confident facade crumbled with each alert. Departments called for emergency meetings. Employees whispered in hallways, sensing panic. Auditors demanded immediate responses. Investors questioned leadership. Contracts stalled. Operations slowed. Every initiative dependent on high-value approvals came to a halt. Emily knew Section 18B was the trigger. Her signature had been blocked. Her authority ignored. The law demanded compliance. The system enforced it. No one could override it without legal consequences. Phone lines rang continuously in the executive suite. The press amplified every misstep. Social media circulated headlines faster than internal messages. Vanguard's credibility unraveled publicly and privately. Every email she sent had magnified an influence. No human error could reverse it now. The storm wasn't personal. It was inevitable. Evan called her twice, his voice panicked but restrained. Ariana did not answer at first. Her assistants pleaded for guidance. Every reaction confirmed the power Emily quietly held. She did not celebrate. She did not gloat. She only noted the system functioning as designed. Every blocked transaction created a ripple. Every halted approval triggered a secondary chain of alerts. Vanguard's own procedures became their undoing. The market responded faster than any executive could explain. Investors lost confidence. Contracts were suspended. Employees speculated fearfully. The boardroom was filled with tension, shouting, and confusion. Yet Emily remained untouched. She observed each collapse, each panic, each misstep. Her plan did not rely on confrontation. It relied on precision, timing, data, and the inevitability of consequence. By the end of the afternoon, Vanguard had become a cautionary tale. The stock had plummeted over 40%. Investments frozen. Legal exposure mounting. Emily stepped outside for air. The sun felt ordinary, but the world she had known had shifted. The dominoes were falling exactly as she had anticipated. And she stood in the calm center, watching everything unfold. Ariana called an emergency press conference immediately. Her tone was sharp, defensive, and rehearsed. "We are investigating a rogue employee's actions," she said. She blamed an unnamed internal saboteur. The media repeated her words without question. She smiled at cameras, but her eyes betrayed panic. Emily watched the broadcast quietly from her apartment. She sipped tea, unmoved. The public narrative tried to pin blame elsewhere. But Emily had already prepared the next step. She drafted a formal submission to the SEC. Every detail of the violation was included. Every transaction bypassing Section 18B was documented. She attached screenshots, email chains, and internal memos. She included a step-by-step account of her authority being blocked. The submission was professional, factual, and irrefutable. No opinion. No emotion. Only evidence. She hit send. The SEC received the full report within minutes. Investigators reviewed the material carefully. The regulatory body confirmed that violations had occurred. The consequences were immediate. News outlets updated their headlines. Ariana's rogue employee narrative began to crumble. The press replayed video clips from the boardroom meltdown. Ariana screamed, slammed doors, and threw papers. The footage circulated rapidly online. Social media exploded with commentary. "No, you ruined yourself," appeared in trending threads. Evan was called into emergency meetings. Executives debated damage control. Internal emails were scrutinized. Every signature that bypassed Section 18B was now evidence. The company's credibility was dissolving in real time. Lawyers advised against public statements. Investors demanded immediate transparency. Stock prices fell further. The board was paralyzed by legal and financial pressures. Ariana attempted interviews, but her words lacked authority. The public saw her anger, not her control. Her reputation collapsed faster than any press release could repair. Emily observed silently. Every action, every panic, every attempt to shift blame confirmed her calculations. She did not gloat. She did not taunt. She only documented in her mind the unfolding truth. She knew the system she designed was enforcing justice quietly. The Citadel proved the company had been mishandled at every level. Compliance, oversight, and governance failures were exposed. Emily's authority had been ignored. The law sided with her. No executive could override the documented violations. No narrative could obscure the proof. By the end of the day, Ariana's attempts to manipulate the story had failed. SEC confirmed preliminary findings. Media outlets analyzed emails and approvals. The story of the boardroom meltdown dominated headlines. Evan and Ariana were forced into defensive positions. Internal morale plummeted. Employees whispered about accountability and leadership failure. Emily remained calm. She did not celebrate. She let the process complete itself. The collapse was methodical, undeniable, and irreversible. Every domino she had set in motion had fallen. And the truth, clear and factual, shone brighter than any accusation. Evan called her first. His voice trembled, strained with desperation. Emily, we need to fix this. Please, I'm begging you. She listened quietly. She did not respond immediately. He continued, explaining losses, lawsuits, frozen funds. He admitted mistakes he had ignored for years. He confessed fear of legal consequences. He admitted he underestimated her. She remained calm. She let him speak until exhaustion filled the line. Then she replied simply, I am not here to fix you. I am here to show you the truth of your choices. Evan fell silent. The weight of her words hung over him. He had no defense, no escape, no one to blame but himself. Minutes later, Ariana called. Her tone was different. Panic mixed with disbelief. Her carefully constructed persona had crumbled. She asked if Emily would consider leniency. She begged for guidance. She tried to charm and manipulate in the same sentence. Emily did not flinch. She replied calmly, You are responsible for your actions. Nothing more. Nothing less. Ariana's voice cracked. She hung up almost immediately after. No more calls came. Emily sat alone, reflecting on the pattern. She realized the final piece had fallen into place. Evan and Ariana were left with the consequences of their own arrogance. They had built their empire on manipulation, shortcuts, and disrespect. She had simply held a mirror to their behavior. Their downfall was the natural result. No interference required. No malicious intent needed. Only the law, the system, and the evidence she preserved. Emily thought about the years she had spent in silence. Ignored. Dismissed. Underestimated. All those moments had prepared her for this. She did not feel triumph. She felt clarity. She felt a deep understanding of fairness. Her patience had allowed truth to emerge without her forcing it. She had acted with precision, not vengeance. She had followed the rules she enforced. She had shown the consequences of negligence and hubris. Her heart was steady. Her mind was at peace. No more whispers in hallways. No more overlooked memos. No more ignored authority. She realized this was the first time she had truly spoken without fear. Evan and Ariana had finally heard her. Not through argument, not through confrontation, but through undeniable truth. And the world had listened. Emily understood that power need not be loud. It could be silent. It could be precise. It could let others dismantle themselves. She closed her eyes. The weight of years of dismissal lifted. The lessons of patience and observation fulfilled. No revenge. No chaos created by her hand. Only clarity. Only consequence. The final call had ended. The storm had passed. And Emily was free. Vanguard Systems was no more. The company dissolved quietly under legal and financial pressure. Its collapse became a case study in business schools. Emily walked away from the city that had trapped her. She carried nothing but the clarity of truth. No revenge. No lingering anger. Only peace. She met Lena at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. They sat in silence for a few moments. The noise of the world felt distant. Emily finally spoke. It's like being allowed to say, okay, again. Lena smiled, understanding the weight of those words. Emily watched people pass by, unconcerned and free. Her authority had been restored, not over others, but over herself. No one could diminish her worth again. No one could erase her insight or dedication. She had acted within the law. She had acted with patience. And the consequences had unfolded exactly as they should. The air felt lighter. The sun warmer. The world quieter. She sipped her coffee, savoring the ordinary. For the first time in years, she felt truly at peace. Her life was no longer a boardroom shadow. It was hers to live. Finally,